Hello, I'm Jill Norman and I'm going to cook a spinach and potato tian from At Elizabeth David's Table. Well, I'm lucky enough to be cooking this at Elizabeth David's table, on the table that she had in her kitchen. This was her kitchen table, at which I sat for many years having lovely lunches and sometimes dinners. And it's great to have it here. The first step to making the tian is to boil the potatoes in their skins and let them cool. And now I'm peeling them. And I'm going to cut them into cubes and put them into the earthenware dish with a little olive oil and salt and pepper. And this will go into the oven, a low oven, for a while the rest of the vegetables are prepared. Because it's important when you make a tian to have the vegetables warm or hot when they're mixed with the eggs. And the tian takes its name from the dish that it's cooked in, which is always an earthenware dish, a traditional dish like this, a round one, that can go in the oven or be used on top of the gas. I'm going to put in a bit of olive oil and then scoop in the potatoes, and some salt and pepper, and that's going into the oven to warm through. The spinach is being cooked now with just the water that clings to the leaves after washing, and I don't put a lid on it so that the water will boil off. Now it's time to beat the eggs, and it's important to beat them so they're really well blended and somewhat lighter in colour. And then the cheese goes into the eggs, and stir all that in. I've cooked the spinach just for 3-4 minutes until it's just gone down and is quite soft in the bottom of the pan. It's important to get the spinach as dry as you possibly can, and the only way to do that is to squeeze it by hand, but just make sure it's cool enough before you try. So here's the dried spinach, which will need a bit of chopping so that it will mix more easily with the potatoes and the eggs. And I'm going to put into it some anchovy and garlic, which is optional, but gives it a good traditional taste of the south of France. And of course, if you use anchovy, remember that it's salty, so you probably don't need too much salt. And I'm going to put a handful of those, or a couple of handfuls, into the spinach. The next step is to put all of the spinach into the egg and cheese mixture and give it a stir. Now I'm going to get the potatoes out of the oven. And while I'm here, I'm going to turn up the temperature of the oven to about 190 so that it will be ready for the tian to go back inside. So I'm just stirring the potatoes a bit. In fact, they're very loose in the dish, and now I'm going to tip them into the egg mixture. And they're nice and hot, which is just what we want. Now this is mixed, and I'm going to tip it all back into the earthenware dish and put it in the oven. It's important not to let it hang about once you've mixed everything together, but get it into the oven straight away so that you don't end up with a layer of eggs on top of a layer of vegetables. And I'm standing it on a tray in case it decides to boil over, but it shouldn't. It needs 25 or 30 minutes in the oven. I always look at it about halfway through the cooking time, just in case it needs turning front to back, so that it cooks evenly. So it rises beautifully when it comes out of the oven, but of course it sinks quite quickly. But in any case, a tian is best eaten warm, not hot, or cold, but I don't mean chilled from the fridge. And it's usually eaten on its own or with some bread and perhaps a green salad. And it's brilliant for taking on a picnic.